man, you mind heating up my food?
What's up, superheroes? Let's jump into this effect. So first off, have your shot in the timeline and head on over to the first frame where you want this effect to start. For me, I want the effect to start immediately after I blink my eyes. I want the effect to start. So I'm gonna, first frame where my eyes are open, I'm just gonna add a marker by pressing M on my keyboard. And then next, I'm gonna head on over to the point where my eyes are fully open. So for me, that's right here. I'm gonna add a second marker. Move your playhead in line with the first marker. Select the shot and head over to the video inspector panel and scroll down and add a tracker. Rename this tracker to left eye and position it to the inside corner of your left eye. You may need to zoom in on your viewer window in order to get a more precise tracker. So just place it right in the center. And then you can click next to the Analyze button. It will analyze forward from the playhead. Click that to analyze from this point forward. And as you can see, Final Cut will real-time track it. Once the tracking is complete, head on over to Generators and add the custom generator on top of your shot. Once the custom generator is added, immediately rename it to left eye. So right here, I can just right-click, rename clip, and just like the tracker, I'm going to label this left eye. Perfect. Now head on over to the generator parameters, which is in the video inspector panel right here. And then you can go over to the generator inspector, click on color and change this to pure white. Now make sure that this generator begins where you want your effect to begin. So it should start right in line with the first marker right here. You can do it just like this, but actually a shortcut to make your life easier, you can use the shortcut command Option left bracket. And wherever your playhead is, it will trim it to where it begins at that point. Then also make sure that it ends where you want the effect to end. This time you can use Option and right bracket to trim the end. Then head on over to your second marker where your eyes are fully open, select your generator and disable it by pressing the shortcut command V on your keyboard. Then head on over to your effects browser and add Draw Mask to your generator. Now zoom into your viewer window and cut out your left eye. You can click and drag your control points in order to make a curved point. Once you have your eye cut out, add another Draw Mask to the generator. And this time, create a circle in the center of your eye. Start just above your eye at the top and bottom. And try and make it right in the center. So you don't want it too far right or left. And you can adjust the curve by selecting your control points and then clicking and dragging on these right here. And make sure it's not too far right or too far left on your eye and it's just right in the center. That looks good. Now you can re-enable your generator clip by pressing V again. And as you can see now it's visible. Head on over to the second Draw Mask and feather it to around 40 or so, works for me. Feather it to the point where it's not quite all the way showing the harsh edges on the right and left side of the eye. But as you can see, it's feathered just like this. Next, with your generator still selected, head on over to the Transform tool and just to the right of the Tracker button, click on the drop down right here. And as you can see, there's a drop down menu. Make sure that the tracker source is indeed the base shot. It matches the title right here. So make sure those two match. And then under tracker, click on this and make sure you select the left eye tracker that you just previously created. So I'm gonna select that. And what that does is that will link the generator to the movement of the corner of my eye. Click on the down arrow once more to open up the drop-down menu and make sure that the tracker is only being applied to the position and not the rotation or scale. So I'm going to uncheck rotation. And as you can see, as I unchecked rotation, the cutout generator actually moved a little bit. So no problem, we're gonna head on over with the generator selected to the video inspector panel, scroll down to transform, and as you can see in rotation, it's now 1.7. And we can just fix that by clicking on it and pressing 0 and resetting the rotation. And as you can see, it's back in alignment with my eye. Next, with your playhead in alignment with the second marker, head on over to the first Draw Mask, Drop down the transform parameters and add a keyframe on position and rotation. Also add a keyframe on control points. Then head back to the very first frame where you open up your eyes, and you can press V to disable the clip, just so you can see it better. Select the draw mask to show the control points, and just simply adjust the draw mask around your eye. All right, now that you've adjusted the draw mask to opening the eye, you can re-enable it by pressing V on your keyboard. Now move your playhead back in alignment with the second marker, select your generator shot, and head over to opacity. Add a keyframe on opacity and go to the first frame of the generator. As you can see, it's right here, and then go one more frame back. And by the way, I'm just moving one frame forwards and backwards with the arrow key. So click the arrow key, the left arrow key, one time to head to the frame just before the generator starts, and drag the opacity down to 0%. So as you can see now, the opacity of the generator increases as I open up my eyes and reaches 100% by the time my eyes are fully open. Next, head back on over to your first draw mask and change the scale to 95%. Then head on over to the effects browser and search for Gaussian. Add this effect to your generator and change the amount to 5. This will just make sure that the edges of the mask are soft and that it looks like a realistic glow. Now duplicate your generator by holding down Option on your keyboard and clicking and dragging downwards on your generator. And as you can see, it creates a duplicate just underneath. We're gonna rename this duplicate shot to Left Eye 2. And the only thing that we're gonna change here is we're gonna change the Gaussian amount right back up to 50. And as you can see, this acts as another glow on the eye. One more time, hit Option, click and drag on this time the Left Eye 2 shot to create a third generator. We're gonna rename this to Left Eye 3. Go up to the generator settings right here, and we're gonna change the color from white to red. Also, feel free to be creative and change it to any color of your choice. Then head back to the video inspector. We're gonna change the scale from 100 to 300%. As you can see, it will move out of place. No problem. We're gonna click on the transform tool and just click and drag it right back into place. And if you want to be able to see this more clearly, you can uncheck the Gaussian effect, temporarily turn that off, and just move the generator in alignment with your eye. So as you can see, that's centered right here, and I'm happy with that position. So I'm going to turn back on the Gaussian, and as you can see, the glow is there. Next, repeat these same steps for the right eye. Once you've completed the steps for adding the glow to the right eye, there is one more step that will take the effect from here all the way to here and put it on par with Hollywood VFX. I'm serious. The secret sauce for this effect is lens flares. A big part of VFX is you have to think about, if they were real, how they would interact with the camera in the environment. If you actually had glowing eyes, it would create a lens flare in the camera, and this is a big reason why it helps sell the effect that much more. The way we created the lens flares is through an awesome plugin from MotionVFX.com called mFlare2. We have a link in the description. MotionVFX is home to a bunch of awesome Final Cut Pro plugins, and we even use them on a regular day-to-day basis here at RenderFX. For instance, our awesome lightsaber effects are created using a MotionVFX plugin called mSaber. We also have a link for that in the description. Next, we're gonna add an adjustment layer on top of everything that we just created. And as you can see, we have a lot of layers. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers, and it's annoying to scroll up and down. What we can do to minimize this is we can actually head on over just left of the effects browser. There's this little button here, and as you can see, you have a bunch of different settings to adjust the clip size. So we're just gonna turn down that clip size and actually click right here and drag this up to make the timeline bigger. So as you can see, we can see everything in one single view. Then head on over to titles and add an adjustment layer on top of everything Unfortunately, Final Cut Pro does not have its own built-in adjustment layer, but we have an awesome free adjustment layer that we use all the time, linked down in the description for you to download and use for this effect. Again, make sure that the adjustment layer runs just the duration of the generator. Again, we're going to use the shortcut command Option right bracket to just trim off the end right there. Now head on over to the second marker, and with that adjustment layer selected, we're gonna add on the flare effect. So open up your effects browser, and as you can see, if we scroll down, there is a whole entire folder called mFlare2 where you have an abundance of awesome flare effects that you can add to your video. As you can see, you have a bunch of anamorphic effects you can add. You have a bunch of cinematic effects. You have a bunch of off-screen effects you can add to make your video that much more spicy. And there's just a plethora of effects. You could go years without even using all of the effects. It's awesome. But for this specific effect, we're gonna use the effect called Horizon Glimmer. So just go ahead. We're gonna add that onto the adjustment layer. We're gonna add one at a time. Obviously, we're gonna add two different flares, one for each eye, but we're to start with the left eye. First thing you'll want to do is click and drag. There's some awesome on-screen controls. Click and drag that just onto the center of the left eye, and we're going to change the color of this flare. As you can see, it's kind of yellow right now. Let's change it to red, or if your glow is any other color besides red, change it to match that color. I'm actually going to change, see this on this mode, I can change it to single color, 3 colors, or 5 colors. I'm going to change it to 3 colors to actually make this just more red. And as you can see, it will show you those 3 colors that it is using. So it's using this color right here, this color, and that color. I'm going to click on that and actually just change that color. As you can see, I'm happy with those 3 colors. Next, we're going to track this flare onto my eye, which is super awesome. There's an easy to use tracking system right here. You click on tracker, it's right over the eye, just make sure it's right there on the center, and we're gonna track. And just like the Final Cut Pro tracker, it's gonna track forwards. And as you can see, in real time, we can watch it track at the speed of light. And then we also need to track backwards, and we can just click on reverse and hit track, and it will track those few frames backwards. So now that we have the entire thing tracked, we're gonna adjust some of the settings to make the flare look beautiful. So let's scroll on down, and right on post effects, we're gonna click on show just to drop down some awesome effects. And as you can see, we have the saturation. Let's bump that up from 1 all the way up to 2. Make sure you're in alignment with the second marker. Let's add a keyframe on the brightness. And just like the opacity, let's move all the way to the first frame where the generator and adjustment layer starts. And then we're gonna head 1 frame to the left and then change that brightness amount all the way down to 0. So as you can see, the brightness of the flare increases as my eyes open, just as the glow does. Next, change the size of the x-axis to 500. Then head on over to the edit, and as you can see, there are a bunch of different streak options that are individually separated, and we can turn on and off and change the settings for. I'm telling you guys, this is the best effect, because if you download just a composite, you will not be able to customize it as much as you can in mFlare2. So as you can see, we can turn off each individual streak by clicking this little power button. You can see what it looks like with and without certain streaks. So I'm gonna turn off just a few of these because I think some of them are a little distracting for this effect. As you can see, this one is a little distracting and I'm not a big fan of it. I'm just gonna press this X button and it will simply delete that part of the flare entirely. All right, so that looks awesome, and let's repeat these steps for the right eye. Actually, a shortcut, instead of repeating these whole entire steps, we can select the adjustment layer, press Command C, which is the shortcut for copy, and then press Command Shift V on your keyboard, which is paste attributes. And as you can see, the effect on here, you have the option to paste the Horizon Glimmer to duplicate that effect. So we're gonna hit paste, and as you can see, a second Horizon Glimmer appears. Let's actually just click and drag this down so that the video inspector is bigger. And it will actually paste it in the same position on the left eye, but it's simple. We can just change that right here. So let's select this horizon glimmer. We're just gonna click it and drag it on over to this eye. And we do need to retrack the right eye because the left eye does move a little bit differently. We're just gonna hit tracker, track, just like we did with the left eye. And we have our whole entire shot tracked. Finally, the very last effect, the icing on the cake, which is so important, is sound effects. An effect is only as great as the sound is. I got all my sound effects from Epidemic Sounds, which we have a link to in the description for a free 30-day trial. So you can download all your sound effects for free and make this effect sound awesome and therefore much more realistic. And if you want to use the same sound effects that we used, as you can see right here, I'm telling you guys, Epidemic Sounds has some awesome sound effects. And if you run out of your trial, you can get a subscription for an awesome price. And that just about wraps up this effect. Like and subscribe or else. If you guys want to check out our previous video, we have a tutorial on how to do Fire Hand effect in Final Cut Pro, which is pretty badass. Also, if you want to check out this merch that I'm wearing right here, we have the link in the description at digitalhustlers.store. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Wow, thanks. Time to eat.